It was one of the bloodiest slaughters in human history. In their bid to capture the Russian fortress at Port Arthur, the Japanese launched wave after wave of human wave assaults, charging and screaming like men in a rush to reincarnate. The Russians' machine guns couldn't even keep pace with the speed at which Japanese soldiers were throwing their lives away. In that first push alone, 5 entire companies were wiped out. Humiliated but unbowed, the Japanese brought in coastal artillery from the home islands. These massive 280mm howitzers weighed 26 tons each and required nearly 100 men just to move. Each shell tipped the scales at 300 kilograms, and after packing in 100 kilograms of propellant, they opened fire on what was considered Asia's strongest fortress. But the Russians' concrete defenses shrugged it off. Unaware of how well the Russians had dug in, the Japanese tried a second major assault, only to be mowed down again. This costly failure left them critically short of both men and ammunition. Still refusing to give up, Japanese command handpicked 3,800 elite troops to form a suicide unit for a third attack. With white cloths tied to their chests, they crept toward the fortress like thieves in the night, only to find the Russians waiting. The moment the front ranks were cut down, searchlights blazed on, exposing the rest. Over 100 heavy machine guns opened up. Even as casualties mounted, the suicide troops kept charging like mindless wild boars, only to be annihilated before reaching the Russian lines. Realizing a frontal assault was futile, the Japanese massed their forces against Hill 203 instead. But the defenses there were even tougher, with heavy machine guns and artillery in place. After a night of brutal fighting, the shattered Japanese forces had to withdraw. Many were so shaken they preferred suicide over another charge. Frustrated by the lack of progress, the Japanese High Command replaced the local commander with the Army's Chief of Staff, whose tactics were even more ruthless. He concentrated every available gun on Hill 203 and ordered the shelling to continue even during infantry assaults, completely indifferent to friendly casualties. The Russians, knowing that if Hill 203 fell the fortress would be lost, poured 70% of their firepower into its defense. Japanese troops charging up the slopes became walking targets. Many never knew what killed them. With blocking units stationed behind them, retreat was impossible, and they were forced into one suicidal charge after another. Eventually, the Russians began to run out of ammunition. Determined to hold the hill, they fought on, hurling rocks when bullets ran dry. The few Japanese who reached the summit had no ammo left either, and the fight devolved into primitive hand-thrown stone battles. At last, sheer numbers tipped the scale, and the Japanese took Hill 203. From its heights, they had a clear view of the Russian fleet anchored in Port Arthur. Under heavy artillery bombardment, the Russian Far Eastern Squadron was wiped out. The Battle of Port Arthur ended in a Japanese victory, but it was a victory drenched in blood.